Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Go Local News editor Kate Nagel. Now we are in the Business Monday segment with Josh Fenton having kicked off with Gary Sass, but had the opportunity this week to check in again with Mark Baillie over at London's King's College. We Skyped with Mark last week after the events in Manchester and of course what took place this weekend. We had to reach out to Mark and get a sense of what's going on over in England right now. To give folks a refresher who didn't watch last week, Mark is writing his PhD on counterinsurgency at King's College. And as we pointed out and talked about, he had published a paper on British jihadis just 6 months before the 2005 London Underground bombings. He runs seminars on a wide range of security matters at King's and the UK Joint Staff College, and he's lived or worked in over 14 countries in the fields of news, security, finance, economics, business, politics, and appears widely in international news on terrorism, international security. So, Mark, thank you for joining us again today. Wish we weren't talking with you again on such terrible circumstances over in London. But talk to us about what took place this weekend.
More of the same. There's very little difference in substance. The attack was used with the simplest methods possible, hiring a rent by the hour van, £14, about less than $20 an hour, as indeed advised in ISIS's Rumiyah magazine back in September. They've got a big picture of an example of something you should be running into crusaders to harvest them, as they say. And that's a picture of a huge Hertz truck, and the London Bridge attack was also with a Hertz truck. I'm sure it's a coincidence, but it's a very sad one. So it just shows that the price of the cost of a terrorist attack now is £14 an hour, 1-4. And that really brings home what I've been going on about before, the terror by the mundane, using the simplest possible tools anywhere, anytime.
How does one even begin to, we were talking about this here, even to begin to address rental cars? Is there even any way, especially if these folks may or may not been on some sort of terror watch list, how does a country even begin to anticipate or proactively prohibit something of this happening, or is it just impossible?
It's largely just impossible. No illegal act has been committed right up to the moment of committing the illegal act. In both attacks on bridges, because they have wide pavements without protective bollards, sidewalks, with lots of tourists, lots of people on. Saturday night, obviously very busy, warm day, lots of bars and pubs around London Bridge. They did indeed have fake explosive vests strapped onto them, and they were carrying knives, which are illegal in this country. Any knife over 3 inches is illegal, anywhere, anytime, pretty much. But right until the moment where they kill the first person, there's very little for anyone to detect.
And the fake bomb vests, do you feel, did that deter authorities? Did that keep them at bay, thinking that it was something more? What was the role that those played?
It's hard to tell. One can only speculate. They might have wished to create more panic so that people would get hurt in running away in the panic. They might have wished to ensure that they were martyred and will therefore go to paradise, which is usually the objective. And they might have assumed that wearing the fake vests would ensure that they were shot by police, which indeed they were. The police fired 50 rounds against 3 people. And so that whatever their calculation was, that's what we can speculate.
And what did you get a sense as it was transpiring over here, as we watched real time in the United States, the press coverage as events were unfolding? Following Manchester, there had been sort of one significant event. It seemed to be the press was almost real time, not even sure of what was taking place. Have we seen anything of this level of confusion and just reporting, reporters trying to report on the fly?
Well, the initial confusion was due to the fact that it was appeared to be continuing. No one quite knew what was going on, although it was the 3 men were shot dead within 8 minutes of the first emergency call.
Okay.
So it was very, very quick, but in everyone's minds, and while people are still being herded out of the area, it appears to still be going on. And that's what raw news is. And that's why real journalists exist.
And is that difficult? You know, do you have to just go to the bystanders? And does that put press and bystanders, do they have a sense of obviously perhaps being on a periphery of something that's in progress? Is there, you know, what do you have to say to that when, again, there's some, they might not know where the suspects are?
Well, that's like war reporting. You go in there and the shot's being fired, you just try to determine they're not coming towards you, which I was fortunately able to do when I was war reporting. And you try to sift between what is the impressions that people suffer from fear and panic, the partial understanding of one side of what's going on, and that's what the professional journalist has to do.
And this is war reporting.
Yeah. But we have the vast mass of social media giving immediate reports, which is useful up to a point, and provides evidence subsequently.
And the aftermath, Theresa May, we have gone back and forth a little bit, Mark, on this. Her comments that enough is enough. I know you had provided some comments to some international press. What does that even mean, and what do we expect to see out of the British government?
That is indeed the big question. The change of tone, the change of vocabulary is welcome. However, thinking back to the 2005 first major Islamist jihadi attack in Britain on the London Underground, there was an immediate change of tone in the discussion after that. But in order to question how useful that was, we can simply jump to the measurable figures of what we currently face, which is 400 or so in or back from ISIS, 2,000 to 3,000 active supporters, 20,000 people recently on the radar for one reason or another, and a completely unknown mass of passive supporters. So that's the outcome of the change of tone in 2005. Whether this change of tone will have any practical outcome is the big question. She's talking the talk. Will she walk the walk?
And as you talked last time, again, about this terrorism of the mundane, do you see this impacting Londoners' everyday lives? Do you see this impacting traveling? Or, again, are folks just going to sort of be resolute and continue life as normal?
Well, there's already a vast amount of security in London. I noticed a lot more today. A lot more locked stores, a lot more single entrances where things are open. An Indian student of mine was describing how in India you can't even get into the airport without a visitor's ticket. So whereas here and in most of the West, you can actually get into the building itself and walk right up to check-in without any security. And there will no doubt be a number of changes to access to any form of public building, particularly airports. The Brussels attack was in the public area of the Brussels airport.
And what do you have to take about President Trump's comments, if you will, sort of his ping at the mayor of London for his comments? How did that play out over there?
It was treated here with ridicule. I'm not totally convinced that he was mocking Sadiq Khan about not being alarmed, because in the past he's said things about the famous British stiff upper lip. So I'm not entirely sure what that was all about.
But what do you think now here domestically, obviously, Trump and his travel ban, when we see things take place like this in England, around the world, does this bolster Trump's case to try to secure the U.S.'s borders further?
That's a good question. The big difference is that you don't have a hardcore, quite substantial internal jihadi threat in the United States, but nonetheless, with very few people. You had the Boston Marathon attack, which was just two brothers, and you don't need a lot of people when people are acting independently, although they are acting within a vast social network, which is no longer physical but digital as well. So no lone actor is alone. Nonetheless, the actual preparation and commission of the act can be on his own.
Do you anticipate, I know folks often have seen calls made for the British government to take more active measures against those known persons on their radar screen. But in the event that they haven't done anything substantively illegal, can the British government actually do anything in that gray zone of folks that they are in fact monitoring, but again have yet to commit any sort of act?
That is a huge question, and one straying into the question of thought crime. And to a certain extent, we already have thought crime in Britain, but you do have to have said or done something which is then interpreted to mean that you have more dangerous thoughts behind it. But we have already strayed quite a long way into the area of thought crime.
And is thought crime not Orwellian?
Sorry, say again?
Is it not Orwellian, where thought crime was in fact coined?
Yes. Precisely.
So again, as we stand here on a Monday, do you expect to hear any sort of pronouncements? You talked about other airports taking enhanced security measures. What do we expect sort of in the week ahead? You said you saw this sort of day-to-day of some businesses being closed, some security measures, but will we hear more, do you anticipate, from the government? Will we see more arrests, or do you anticipate any more actions again in the coming days?
Well, there are bound to be a lot more arrests, and even in the case of the Manchester bombing against the pop concert, there are a number of people still under arrest, although the police are convinced that he carried out the attack by himself. Nonetheless, he had plenty of associates, and they're using that opportunity to pick them up. There will be more arrests. This is 3 people, therefore everyone living with them has been arrested as a start, and I'm sure many of them will be released very quickly, like with the Manchester bomber. But they will be studying networks, mobile phones, computers and everything else to establish networks. But the question remains, is there any form of prevention? And the argument is largely no, although the police have intercepted 5 real plots since the Westminster Bridge attack in March, and a great number over the last couple of years.
Is there any sort of backlash there, Mark? We have the ACLU over here. Are there groups decrying overreach by the government? Is that taking place in London at all?
Not right at the moment in connection with this attack, but the debate about the definition of intent, of conspiracy, of thought crime is a vigorous debate.
Well, I appreciate your being able to Skype in today. Again, as I said, unfortunate, it's just been a week after we talked with you following Manchester. But Mark Baillie, writing your PhD at King's College in London, with your level of expertise and insights being over there, I appreciate your ability to Skype in at a moment's notice. And I'm hoping we don't have to actually talk with you anytime soon. But we'll keep tabs. And if you're ever this side of the pond, we certainly want to get you here into Providence.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mark Baillie with King's College in London, catching up with us following the